Hello and welcome to Pop Psychology Live. This is Pop Psychology Live brought to you by PhoenixTrainingGroup.com, workplace violence prevention program for healthcare, behavioral health, law enforcement, social services, schools, Target stores, and any other industry that encounters cranky people, which is pretty much the entire world. If you want to tune in to Pop Psychology Live, it will be youtube.com/Pop Psychology Live. We are here coming from Pasadena. My name is Doc Elliot. I've been a crisis negotiator for over 40 years, and we have coming from Pasadena today, and we have Scott coming from
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Awesome.
I was a counselor for a long time in the psych field, and now I build technology solutions for human beings in which I take into account their feelings and stuff.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
there is a gentle side to programming. There is a human side to that, and Scott brings that out. That is so cool. So the disclaimer for today is we are Pop Psychology Live, where you'll hear the worst psychology advice and viewpoints you'll ever be subjected to. So please don't watch us or listen to us if you're wanting some quality content, that is. Please, and if you're experiencing any kind of mental health emergency, please turn this off and seek the appropriate medical care or attention, or call 911. No, seriously, you'll have better advice if you'd go to the San Diego Zoo and go to the monkey cages.
If you do hear something here that you want to tell people where it came from, don't just forget that you heard it from us. We also are unsuable, just to put that out there. We know that people love to sue people these days, and
absolutely.
We will never slander anybody, even if we say something slanderous. We will never talk bad about people, even if we do talk bad about people. But all the conditions that somebody might get their feelings hurt or decide that they were angry at us and wanted to seek legal advice and how they could somehow be compensated, it just doesn't work. We don't have anything for you.
Yeah, nothing. We just don't have anything. What you see behind me that's pretty much it.
I have a pencil and $1.32 in change, and if I hurt your feelings, you're welcome to it.
Yes. And we apologize if we do hurt anyone's feelings, but we are really glad that you're here. We're glad that you actually did tune in, and hope you stay around for a while. That would be really cool. But if you do get offended, you can leave anytime. That's fine. You're welcome to leave anytime and walk out that virtual door, really. But we would really like you to stay, though, because we really like listeners and viewers. So.
And we'd like to hear about it. If we push some button, if we make you enraged in some way. We don't generally tend to do that with people, but if it does happen, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, because we actually take responsibility for our actions, which is not very common these days. And so I would love for that to happen. And I and Scott will take full responsibility for what we say, just not in a liable sense. That's all.
Right. There's no financial incentive for you to get mad at us.
Absolutely not. Like you said, I think last week, just walk away. Just walk away. Pay us no more attention. Just discount us from now on. But we would love for you to stay and watch and listen and have a good time, because we intend always to have a good time, and we're here to explore the lighter side of psychology, and that's why it's pop psychology, popular psychology. We're just here to have fun with a little bit of psychology. Not that we are saying that psychology and the people experiencing any psychological issues is entertainment. We're not saying that. We're just trying to find the weirdness and humor in psychology and how it's kind of designed and implemented. That's all.
Yes. We love people.
Yes. Absolutely.
And
We
we
support
hope the best
people.
for all of them.
Absolutely. We support people, and we are complete advocates of people who need mental health services and require it. We fight for the rights of people to have those kind of resources. I have personally helped to pass laws that help individuals find better resources. And so we are here as advocates for the mental health community. But sometimes the people who run the mental health community sometimes is a little bit laughable. So that's what our targets is, not it's just the psychology of psychology. That's right.
There we go.
Yeah. for better words. No, really. But like I said before, if you want really quality advice or viewpoints, you'd be better off going to the San Diego Zoo and going to the monkey house and asking them, because they'll give you better advice.
or we all know what they are capable of doing.
Yes, absolutely.
And that may be your response to seeking help from a monkey is,
right.
Yeah. We know what they do.
Yeah, right. So what? Wherever you go, really, no. If you go to a psychiatrist office or the monkey cages, still you're gonna get some shit slung at you.
It's very similar.
It's
very similar.
Pretty much the same. It's from my experience.
So that's kind of the fascinating part, is that at some point in everybody's life, they might feel like they need some help on something.
Yes.
They need to ask something from someone else.
Absolutely, which I support in completely 100%.
And but the reality is, that's the beautiful purpose of psychology and professionals working in the field, is because you can't just go anywhere and get that. You can't just walk into a bar and be like, hey, I really need I need a hug.
Well, in some cases, bartenders are kind of lay psychiatrists, psychologists in a lot of cases, because since they don't have the resources that they used to have, humans used to have better resources when it came to mental health services. And since we don't have as many resources, the local bartender has become the local psychologist for many people, and bless their souls, they do a pretty good job sometimes, because they see so many people with so many problems every single day. But
so
we're trying to change that. We're trying to change that and create more resources.
If we could flash something on the screen, that would be our advice of the day for you to not use, is definitely seek out an empathetic bartender.
Yes, absolutely. If you cannot have the resources, then if you can just afford a beer, whether it's
a sarsaparilla.
A sarsaparilla, whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic, whatever suits you and is best for your well-being, and then ask for some advice, because they typically have pretty good advice. But if you do have the resources and go out and get those resources, then please seek appropriate medical and behavioral health attention if you can. And we're trying to work very hard to try to create more of those resources.
Or give us a call.
Yeah.
You can give us a call.
Give us a call, ring us up, email us. We'll have the chat up not too far from this date. So that's the point that I think that I'm looking forward to, is getting the point where we can take questions when we're live someday, and then respond to you accordingly. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that part, actually.
And we're working on that.
Absolutely.
That
so,
is coming
Scott,
soon.
did you have anything weird and odd happen this week that you wanted to share? Anything?
Oh, it's every week there is something. But as you noticed, I'm wearing the cycling cap.
Yes, I did.
This is the last week of the Tour de France.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. There's
been some controversy this year.
Endless. It's never stopped. So no longer is it junkies, blood dopers, and mayhem, like the good old days, but but there's always something. Apparently, if you put a 172 well-trained top world athletes together on the road, with about 4 inches between each of them, going 40, 50 miles an hour, sometimes things happen. Yeah. It's maybe unavoidable.
Yeah, that's right.
And we've seen the craziest things. We've seen people, you take your eye off the guy in front of you for just a second, and boom, there's 40 guys laying out on the road. Wow. Because a wheel touched.
Wow.
There's somebody reaches for a bottle as they're going down the road. They have helpers along the way that give them a water bottle when they need it from somebody from their team helpers. Right. And maybe they miss the bottle. They try and grab it, and whoops, they don't get it. And it falls into the ground. And now you have this springy rubber obstacle that doesn't really give when a wheel hits it. And it just sends bikes flying. We saw that.
I had that happen on the freeway one time. I was on a motorcycle. Yeah, I was on a motorcycle. It was a big motorcycle too. It was a big Yamaha, one of those big gold wing type motorcycles, but it was just Yamaha, and it was probably 700 pounds. It was a huge, giant thing. And I'm going down the 405 here in California, and I was lane splitting because it's allowed by law, and not the greatest idea, but it's allowed by law.
But you can do it.
And so I was lane splitting, and there was a car that was passing way up ahead of me, so I was kind of pulling back and waiting for it to merge, and then I shot through, and just as it got in a lane and I was able to accelerate, I noticed there was a big truck muffler in between the lanes, right? Oh, no. that I couldn't avoid because I was doing 60, and I just had to hope that I was going to live through it.
But it worked.
And literally, I hit it, and I just hit the accelerator when I hit it, knowing that, and that's the only thing that saved my life, I think, was knowing what to do. Spending so many years in doing stunt work, I knew what to do when you hit things like that, right? So I accelerated to try to pop it up in the air like I would a ramp, same thing. And luckily I did, and it popped, and I went about 3 feet in the air, right? The wheels were 3 feet off the ground, sailing through the air in between cars, right?
Yes.
And all I remember is kind of looking to the left and the right as I'm in the air in between cars we're all doing like 60 miles an hour, and I just see this look on this person, this woman that was driving next to me, just like as she thought I was just, the whole bike was gonna just come into her window. And I went through the air and then landed and bounced a couple of times and just kept on going. And I didn't drop it. I didn't crash. I just bounced and kept on going. But that was life before your eyes in a split second. Yeah. So yeah, I totally get the bottle putting you in the air.
There are some physics laws that are unavoidable.
No.
You can't overcome, and you can't betray them. It will happen in a certain way. And yes, you were very fortunate. Some of these guys, not necessarily so. But and it's people equate it with being thrown out of a car in your underwear at 40, 50y miles an hour.
I know what that's like. I know what that's like. Yeah, right. I can relate to that.
Everybody knows
that happened years ago, though. I don't want to talk about that.
I don't like to talk about it.
That was kind of a terrible time in my life. But I can relate.
But it's interesting because they delayed it for a couple months this year.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So they weren't even sure it was going to happen. And people were like, it has to happen. It's the biggest thing on the planet.
Right.
It has to happen. And so they put a lot of different protections in place and stuff. And while the cyclists are on their bike, nobody's in a mask. But the second they're off their bike, masks go on. So all interviews, podium, taking their trophies, whatever, everything is all done in the mask. And they test every rest day. So it's 21 days of racing, and there's 2 rest days in between there.
Wow.
And on those rest days, they test all the riders, all the staff, all the drivers, all the motorcycle riders, the cameramen, the chefs, everything. So it's like, I think it was 865 tests on the rest day. And the first day, the director of the race tested positive.
Oh, no.
And so he had to go quarantine for a week. None of the riders did. 2 staff members on one team, or one staff member on 2 different teams tested positive. And if they have a second test in the same week, the whole team goes home.
Oh my God.
So there's a lot banking on it. The second rest day, 865 tests or something like that, 0 positives. So they're doing a good job, and they're going to actually, looks like they're going to make it into Paris without having to cancel it. But just that feeling, if you think about this, the biggest event in the world, you're there for 21 days, and this is the cream of the crop. You've worked for your whole year to get here, but it could end any day. Like if your team tests positive, boom, you're gone. If too many people, the whole race gets canceled. So every day it's been really that anticipation, and
that's a psychological
anxiety.
Challenge that they've never faced before.
Right.
That's just it's a setting a precedent. It's never been experienced before. So that psychological turmoil of trying to focus, you have to be like that laser focus, but then you've got this gigantic distraction psychologically of the COVID issues, and that's something that I would think would be such a huge weight on their focus, their ability to focus.
That it could end any minute. Plus, all the protections. Plus, they started the first couple of days in just a deluge of rain.
Oh.
And so half the peloton wrecked for the most part. They going around corners, they're skidding out. So by the time they're even in the third day, you have a good percentage of these guys that are just battered and bruised and road rash, and then they've made it one of the toughest courses that they've ever done. So it's just
because
like
that makes sense
upon layer upon layer. And what does it take for a person to excel and be calm? And what I kind of equate it with was one of the particular hospitals that we worked at that had the adult psych, had adolescent psych, had adult chemical dependency, adolescent chemical dependency, all on one unit with no doors between anybody. Yeah. And when we would walk in each day, you'd go, because we used time cards back then, we'd punch in, and the hair on the back of your neck would just go zzz. Yeah. And you're like, okay, it's going to be one of those days. You could just
feel that. You feel that energy that you're walking into.
Yes. But that ability to, and my daughter has this amazing ability in the midst of the greatest chaos to be level.
Right.
To be going through it levelly, to making sane decisions, to not panicking, not reacting to craziness, but you're participating in it in a way that you're a leveling factor.
Right.
And how necessary is that in some psych environments, obviously in the Tour de France, but a lot in society now. Yeah. Like you mentioned, you could be in Target, and it's required of you to be the level person when the world has gone crazy around you.
Right. Well, there was a whole big study about how fear and excitement produce the same things in our bodies, and you'll hear or see interviews, and some athlete before a big fight or before the Tour de France or something, and they'll put a microphone in their face and say, "Weren't you scared?" And they go, "No, it's not a fear." They've been able to harness that excitement and take it to a different place. Instead of having fear and all the adrenaline that it creates, they're able to channel that into performance. And so it's not a fear, it's an excitement over the performance instead of the fear of the performance or fear of failing or fear of falling. And so it's how we perform when we're negotiating as well. Because if you feel fear is a healthy thing, but if it gets too great, then you make horrible decisions. So instead of feeling the fear, you channel it into excitement. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to help this person, instead of feeling fear that it might fail. And so that's the same thing that the bicyclists do. They channel that fear and switch it over to excitement over winning and performing.
And we see that in public speaking. We see it probably live stage acting,
right,
or maybe on camera acting.
Mm-hmm.
We see it where you take that anxiety or that, it's almost cliche, the before you take the stage, you're in there throwing up,
right,
because of all the stress and the anxiety, and then you're great. You go out there and you're focused and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And
and that's how you teach yourself to do that, because most people just feel fear until they learn that they can switch that over to excitement. And because they're the same things, fear and excitement are the same things. And so they realize that, okay, so I have another choice. I do have another choice. I have a choice of fear or excitement. And then they realize that they can switch that over. It just takes a little bit of practice, and switch over to excitement instead of the fear. And then the excitement takes over and they can actually perform. And that's how you teach people to get over stage anxiety and performance anxiety and things like that.
And then we see a kind of a different type of that, using that fear energy, say in our media, where they take the fear and try to pile it on you to get you to do something.
That's true. So that's the opposite. So actually the goal is to produce fear. That's what the media does. The media actually knows how to produce fear. They have no interest in you feeling excitement.
Turning it into woohoo.
They are completely focused on creating fear. So it creates chaos and drama, and we all know that people like chaos and drama. People tune in. So that's the flip side of it, is manipulating the continuance or creation of fear. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's interesting to watch too, because you see, it seems like I don't know when they run out of levels to ratchet it up to, but they just keep finding that next level to raise it. Like now, if you hear it depends on what news media, they all kind of have their own bent.
Right.
One might lean this way, one might lean that way, but it's very clear if you just look at it which way they want you to believe,
right,
or they think you already believe that, and so they just want to carry you there further. And we'll see anytime.
If you analyze it, you can catch it. You can, if you just sit back and analyze it objectively, and each channel that does that, you can kind of see the pattern that leads this way, or the pattern that leads this way, and what their agendas are.
Yeah, and it's so polarized now. We have the one side that Trump's going to destroy the world. That's it. One guy, he's going to destroy the world. And on the other side, this other guy's going to, I don't know, marry all your daughters and play with their hair and smell them. I don't know what the deal is over there, but you get a real heavy emphasis of, you definitely don't want to go that way from this outlet.
Right.
And there's not really this positive thing like, hey, what would be best for everybody? It's just like terror over here and terror over there.
But that's
Which way
common
are you going to run
sense.
from?
But
Where are
that's
you going to
common
run?
sense, though. See, that's what business are they in? They're not in the business of common sense. They're in the business of agendas, and so that trumps. No pun intended. The agendas that would trump the agendas to have common sense. So they can't afford to have common sense or even promote common sense.
Yeah.
I wish more people would promote common sense, and we wouldn't be in a lot of these issues right now.
Well, I guess there's just, it's like how many people have tried to make a positive news channel? I think Ashton Kutcher maybe was the last one to try it, or there's some celebrity that tried
it was
Who was that?
John Krasinski.
Yeah, Krasinski from The Office. Yeah,
from The Office. Yeah, he created that
like
positive
what, a couple
channel.
weeks.
Yeah,
and then
for like 2-3 weeks.
This isn't working out. No. It's only this year.
Nobody wants to listen to the good stuff.
Nobody wants to hear that garbage about happy people.
And my kids are the same way. They go, they're so tired of watching the news. They don't watch the news. They completely don't watch the news. They don't watch crazy things on online or on their phones. They just tune that stuff out. If I'm even watching a show like the Bar Rescue, right? You ever seen that show, Bar Rescue?
Yes, I have.
Right. And so there gets the point where he comes in and he starts yelling at everybody, and then the place is so dirty, and he says, "Shut this place down!" Right, and that's his big tagline: "Shut this place down!" And he gets all crazy, mad and insulting. And my kids can't watch it. They leave. They just go, "Nope, can't watch it. Can't watch it. It's just too much conflict." Right? Because I myself and my wife Donna have been able to mold them into where they don't go towards conflict. They go away from conflict, and but they're good at dealing with conflict, which is really good. There's a difference between avoiding conflict and being able to deal with conflict. And each of my children are good at dealing with conflict, but unnecessary conflict, they just remove it, which is if I'm watching Bar Rescue, forget it. They're out of the room because it's just too much conflict. He's yelling too much. I don't want to hear him.
So Rebecca, my wife, and I, we have there's one show. We'll watch several different shows that have different things, and we have no attraction to the shows where it's just, the people are just berating one another or anything like that. We don't even bother with any of that. You can pretty much tell just a ridiculous show, and we're not attracted to that.
Right.
But what we have seen is like we'll watch Expedition Unknown, and
it's a great show. Great show.
And he's great. He's entertainment. I mean, he's living the dream. He always wanted. He's an archaeologist that really wanted to be Indiana Jones, and now he gets to be. And
there are not many funny archaeologists, at least that we know of.
Right. And so he's really good at that. But he always has that thing where, and it's the before commercial thing where they show like his foot slipping, like he's like, and then they go to commercial and you come back and he's just like, "Oh no, I'm okay." But and we're like, "Oh wait, there's the drama." Right. And it's just a little bit that they
have to invent the drama.
Mandatory if you're going to have a TV show that you have to have something that people will come back from commercial
getting a sandwich,
Yeah. So you do the shark attack, and then you get back and it's that? Like, oh no, it was just a selfie with a shark.
Right.
It's cool.
Right. What's that in the dark?
Oh, it was nothing. But he's good at that. At just making those oh no things, and keeping you entertained. I like it.
Yeah, that's a great.
But he treats people well. I've noticed he's very respectful to people.
I like that about him.
I mean, you can see that it's an obvious different belief system than his.
Oh, absolutely.
Or something that he's like, that people are like, no way.
Right. No, there's like, way too much today. There's way too many people who capitalize on the struggle of human life and make fun of people. And basically the people that do that are just television bullies. They're making fun of, I'm the cool kid, making fun of the kid that's not so popular. And that's how I look at it, like that. And people like Josh Gates on Expedition Unknown, they're good at that balance. They have respect for human life and people and traditions and know that it's important. So yeah, shows like that I support.
And I don't know if that's he probably, it helped develop that in him by being in archaeology, where he learned about a lot of other cultures,
mm-hmm.
and maybe that's an important aspect that could be missing in a lot of people.
I think that's very true. Yeah, because if you just know
worldview, or
right, I think if you just know your culture, then you're a little one-sided. Your mind is not expanded enough. And I was fortunate enough in growing up to be exposed to a lot of different cultures, and my parents were and even my dad's parents were introduced to a tremendous amount of cultures all over the world, and so they brought that culture back when they raised me. I grew up with just all of that culture from all over the world, and I was introduced to that, and so that helped to kind of shape me to know about other cultures, because they had that experience. They'd traveled the world for decades and gone into the jungles of Borneo and New Guinea, visiting with headhunters, and my grandfather was archaeologist for a while, and so I have, even on my shelves, I've got artifacts from Egypt, from the sands of Egypt. Like I have statues and clams that are millions of years old, that are just rocks. That they used to be clams in the desert in Egypt, but there's no ocean there anymore, and so they're millions of years old in the sand and stuff. And so I just grew up with that culture. So I think that really helped shape me and make me tolerant and have that tolerance for other cultures and that respect for other cultures. And that's something I think that's missing these days.
And I think we see a lot of evidence of that in any news report. We see that lack of understanding that there's a different way to do something,
mm-hmm.
Or there's a different viewpoint.
Right. Different viewpoint.
It's okay to have a different viewpoint. That mm-hmm. That kind of acceptance of others, where you know yourself well enough that you don't have to make somebody else be you.
Right. Adhere to your principles. Right.
Yeah. You can accept that they are different than you.
Right. And I think that's the key to a lot of peace around the world, is just understanding everyone else's cultures and being willing to listen to other people's viewpoints, and not that this is the only viewpoint because it's what we learned to instill viewpoints on everyone else. And if people would just kind of stay calm and go, yeah, let me hear your viewpoints and let me hear your culture. Wow. Yeah, maybe I'm going to stick with my viewpoints, but I understand that you have yours, and that's very cool. Wow, what a concept.
You could do that? You can, you could let people
there'd be think peace all over the world if that were the case.
That's crazy.
Right. Oh, hey, I've got before we get off of the bicycling though, and we've talked about the psychology of bicycling anyway. There are so many people that absolutely just devote their entire life and every penny that they have ever earned in their lives, by the way, to bicycling, because it is an expensive sport. And then there are the people that absolutely just despise road bikers. To me, it's such a fascinating experiment of seeing that division like that, and just the haters and the lovers, and how passionate each one is about hating or loving that. And it's just really a fascinating. I think we can do a whole show on that someday.
We could, and so I was in Arizona last week, and as you know, and I got to see a creative city planner probably that addressed a solution for that animosity, that hatred versus the love of that conflict that's always there.
Really?
And it was a beautiful, simple solution. Every road I went on had a bike lane. Mm-hmm. There's your solution. Yeah. You don't have the get off my road, and you don't have the I have every right to be on your road. Yeah, you just have your own rodes.
Right.
Everybody has their own roads.
Yeah, I think that's what they've tried to do in Los Angeles. They've been
I know. I heard about that fiasco.
But the problem that is like, okay, we're going to give them their own road, but it happened to be half of the regular road. Right. And so you have all these people in cars, but they just took an entire lane away. What is that? Now it's going to take me twice as long to get to work because we have less lanes.
Like I said, not all city planners are the same. Have the same level of creativity when they approach a problem solution.
See, I think the key word you used was plan. Having a plan with that. That was kind of like, let's adapt. Try to see if it worked, and it didn't.
Well, like when they tried.
But that was a plan. See,
the subway in LA. When after, 150 years of LA building skyscrapers, they're like, hey, I know, let's put a train underneath this. What? That didn't work out very well, did it?
There were buildings in Hollywood that actually sunk 5 feet on the most famous streets on earth. Right. Hollywood Boulevard.
That's the opposite.
The building started literally sinking into the ground, and they had to shore everything up.
I mean, I understand when England wanted a tunnel to France, or France wanted a tunnel to England, and they agreed, okay, let's do it. You start over there, we'll start over here, and we'll meet in the middle under the ocean.
Yeah, right.
Well, they worked it out. I mean, that was brilliant. It was amazing that they. And they had to keep correcting their path until they finally met.
I don't know how that ever happens.
That was brilliant engineering.
It's magical to me. It's wizardry to me.
But so that required amazing planning. When you think about, we have one of the biggest major metropolises in existence. Now let's start thinking about putting something underground there. I don't think that was the best idea. Whereas Arizona might be new enough that they started out with, hey, we're putting some new roads in, let's add a bike lane. There we go.
Yeah.
That starts out wide enough.
Yeah. See, that'll work. Yeah. Put the subway underground on a fault line here in Los Angeles. That's great thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, to this day, I've ridden it once, and I was terrified the entire time. that we were gonna have an earthquake. We were just gonna be swallowed up for eternity in a tomb of under Hollywood.
Oh, so that. Oh, okay. Were we done with the cycling? Because
okay, yeah.
That just made a whole
I heard that. I was just going to mention, I heard some controversy about the cycling that there was one guy who crashed and went over the wall and fell, I don't know how many feet down, and he got hurt. And then there was a controversy of that one of his wranglers, the assistants that go to them and help them out, and their team, a teammate or something, was observed on camera like taking something out of his pocket and putting it in his pocket, right? It's like, wow, what was that about?
I never saw that.
No. Oh, it was it was all over the news.
So a guy went over a guardrail, but there was a big drop off, but he didn't go down it. He just went over the guardrail, got back up.
Oh no, this one he went off the wall and fell like, I don't know, 15 feet down, and hit the ground down there, and he was hurt. And as they were tending to him, I don't know if this was the actual race or the pre-race. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it wasn't the tour. It might have been in training or something.
Yeah, he was maybe he was training but it was associated with, so it may have been before the race or something. But he was maybe training for it, and he went over. But they were still televised, or it was, the cameras were still on him, and they observed his wranglers grabbing something from his pocket and jamming into his pocket. Like what was in his pocket? Was it? They said it was communication devices.
Oh yeah, they use radios.
Yeah, they're allowed to use radios, but there's something that they're not allowed to use in terms of the predictability or something. And some of them had been caught using this form of communication that is not allowed or something. And they think he had one of those little things or something. But it was a huge controversy, and they were talking about it on the news the other day.
No, we saw things like you're not allowed to take a water bottle when there's 20 kilometers left in the stage. Okay. And the guy wearing the yellow did. Right. And so they docked him 20 points, and he lost or 20 seconds, and he lost his jersey. Ooh. And then the next day, they, because of the difficulty of the stage or whatever, they said, you can take water up to 10 kilometers. But he lost his yellow jersey because he took a sip of water too late. And so it's things like that. We're like, what?
Oh, that's unacceptable.
So we every year we see things that are so questionable, because it's almost like the Wild West. There is a authority on the rules, but they make them up as they go.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Like, so last year, this guy that had the yellow this year got it taken away. He had the yellow for 14 days last year, and they were only 2 days away from the end, maybe 3 days away from the end, where he possibly could have won. And so he wasn't as good a climber as some of the other guys. So he was losing time going uphill.
Yeah.
But he would always make it up going downhill because he was such an exceptional descender. And so last year, after they had the uphill, they had the downhill, and then after the down part, because of the rain and hail, they had mudslides and avalanche that closed the road. So they had to cancel the rest of that stage. But instead of ending it when the riders stopped riding, they ended it at the top of the hill. They said, well, we'll take the time of everybody at the top of the hill. So he lost his yellow jersey because he lost time going uphill, but he always made time up going downhill. So there was no reason to not end it because they told the riders, you'll ride to this town and stop here. And so theoretically, that's where the race stopped before they went into the mudslide. But no, they said instead of where you stop racing, which is all the downhill where he could have made up his time, they said, we're taking the time from the top of the hill. And so he lost his yellow. Oh, it was like, what? How do you, but these rules, they just make him up when you asked for a call out to more common sense. And when you apply that to these kind of situations, you're like, well, it doesn't exist. That defied common sense. Why they would do that.
Crazy making. Oh my God. Yeah. How could that ever be?
Exactly. It's like bipolar, right?
Oh my God.
It's a bipolar rule maker.
Bipedpolar. It's weird. Okay. That's crazy. All right. Anyway. Hey, I have a popular psychology, Pop Psychology Live show and tell.
Ooh.
We talked. Yes.
Someday we'll have sound effects and maybe like streamers that come down the stream.
Gosh. Absolutely. Ooh. Okay.
The crowd goes wild.
I think I mentioned in another talk that we had about it was the sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan, the Kellogg Battle Creek, Michigan sanitarium. One of the largest in the world, and it was run by the Kellogg Brothers.
Yes.
And they made cereals and silicas, and they were the birthplace of Kellogg's Corn Flakes, and
Yes.
out of a sanitarium. And by the way, since Kellogg's Corn Flakes came out of the sanitarium, it was the very first serial killer.
Oh no.
Letting you know that. Just if you hadn't heard that before.
Oh boy.
So anyway, this is one of the boxes of candies that they offered, and this is probably 1910, I'd say, about 1910. Turn of the century to about 1910. And these were the candies that they produced. And the candies that they produced were kind of mineral oil in a caramel-like setting. Right?
Fish scales and sand.
Castor oil center. Yes. Kind of like Gushers, you know.
Yeah.
Ooh, it tastes good. Ooh, that's caramel. And then they bite into it, the castor oil comes out.
It's a creamy epicake.
Yeah. It was awful.
Now flavored with lard.
Oh. It was just horrendous. But this is the box that they would come in, and so. But of course, I don't have any of those left. So just because it's October and close to, I have candy corn.
Well, here's an interesting tidbit. The last batch of candy corn was also made at that same time, and they're still serving it.
Yes, they are. Right. So yeah, there you can see that.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
Is that a metal box?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all metal with very sharp edges, by the way.
And they would give this to patients?
Yes. The edges are literally, if I were to go across with my finger like that with any pressure, it would give me a cut.
You could shave 4 people with that box.
It is, I mean, listen to that. It is so sharp. I cannot even tell you how sharp this metal is. It's so sharp. As an added bonus, right?
Wow.
The Battle Creek Food Company. All right, Battle Creek, Michigan.
How wonderful to have a box with no FDA information on it.
Oh God, no. That was
no
awesome.
Calories.
They didn't have any need for that back then.
It was actually one of his peers, Heinz, who got the FDA into existence. Heinz was making ketchup, and other people started making ketchup and selling it. And he was like, well, that's not acceptable. And he went to Congress and said, these people are they're putting shoelaces in there. We have no idea what's in their product. We need some regulation to eliminate his competition. He got the FDA started. Wow. Where they have to know what the contents are of anything. So it put all his competitors out of business. Wow. He also bought up all the glass bottles that were manufactured at that point, bought all of them, and the ones he didn't use, he dumped in the river. He sunk a barge full of the glass bottles so his competitors would not have any containers to sell their product. Wow. Yes, this is how entrepreneurship works. Oh,
devious entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but all those guys, I mean, the Kellogg's, their legal battle over the Kellogg name.
Oh, absolutely.
It was all diabolical and backstabbing to get the top.
Oh yeah, and it was the demise of the Kellogg Brothers as a team.
Yeah.
When they introduced the cereals, it was healthy, but one of the brothers put sugar on the cornflakes, and everyone loved it, and the other brother got really upset. No, that's the whole point. We're trying to create healthy alternatives. And but people are willing to pay for this. So
yeah, right.
So that brother went off and created Kellogg's Cornflakes Company, and the other brother stayed and ran the sanitarium in a healthy environment. And the one brother became rich and famous for the Kellogg's company cereal, and the other one ended up closing the sanitarium after years, and he was penniless.
So it was the younger brother that he was always treated poorly by the older Kellogg.
Right.
And this was his, like, never measuring up until he took the flakes and made them successful.
That's
and
it.
now finally he'd measured up, and the big brother, that was unacceptable.
No, he couldn't take that.
They went to court to fight over who's actually Dr. Kellogg, who is the Kellogg that the world will know.
Exactly.
Because the older Kellogg sued him, like, you can't use my name. Everybody knows me, and they love me. And he's like, they love my cereal. And so they went to court, and the judge had to say, you will be the Kellogg from here on out. You will not.
Yes. The one that made the most money became the Kellogg.
Yes. Yeah. It's crazy. But we saw all those kind of things from Coke.
Yeah.
The same thing with Coke.
Oh, absolutely.
But all these guys that started what today we just take for granted, man, they fought, and they were devious and diabolical.
Absolutely. Yeah, we look at those companies so fondly now. There's so many companies and corporations, and there was horrible treatment back then of human life in getting those products to us. The Mars company versus the
Dad and
Hershey's, and oh my gosh, it was just it was hell. Those families just went through hell, and they had terrible tragedies and horrible relationships, and hatred for each other, even in their own families. And wow, it's a psychology of entrepreneurship, I tell you. Nothing without great sacrifice, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions that I wanted to pose to you today. There were a couple of pop psychology, I guess, myths that some people know, some people don't. So I wanted to bounce a couple off of you today, see if you are familiar with them, number one, or if you believe them, number two.
All right.
Yes. There's the well-known adage that there's safety in numbers. I mean, you always hear that, it's safety in numbers, right?
Until COVID.
Until COVID, right. and that completely went away. that was proven wrong. Okay, never mind. Don't do that anymore. So we've always been programmed that there's safety in numbers, and the more people that would be present in an emergency, especially an emergency, the chances that somebody will intervene is then exponentially increases like that, and so that's just been common knowledge as far as I can remember. What is your take on that? Do you think that that's true or not?
Boy, I think context really has to come into play. Like, for instance, COVID, probably not safety in numbers. Is not the equation we go with for that.
I guess like if there's an emergency, something's happening, like a medical emergency or some kind of trauma or something, the greater chance that somebody will intervene if there, let's say somebody falls and hits their head on the sidewalk. And so exponentially, the more people that are there, then it would equate to more chances that somebody would actually intervene.
I don't think that's true. I actually would see more people would have more inclination to think someone else will step in. That, well, maybe somebody here's a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but so maybe somebody here knows what to do. I don't know what to do. Whereas if it was one person and they saw one person face a bad situation, oh, I better help this guy. You know, there would be no option really, unless they were just barbarians, to not move to help the guy.
Right.
They're just like, wow, sucks to be you, and walked off. Which could happen.
Have you ever been to New York?
Right.
We tend to think that New York is very progressive. It's just a bunch of little barbarians in suits walking around.
With very expensive apartments.
Right.
That are getting cheaper these days, from what I understand.
Yes, did you see the line out of the U-Haul in New York? There was they got some pictures of the one of the U-Hauls in New York, and there was literally a line down the sidewalk of people renting trailers and trucks to get out of New York.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wish they would do that here more. They are in Los Angeles, but I wish the lines were longer. I wish the lines were much longer. I'd like to see a few more people leave here in Los Angeles. So you are absolutely true. You're absolutely right. It has been proven that it doesn't matter how many people that are in a crowd. Safety numbers doesn't always equate to the higher number of the likelihood of somebody actually intervening. It's just people, and it may be exactly what you said. Just maybe there's so many people that's, I guess somebody's going to help them. You know, somebody must be helping them or something. But statistically, they proved that that is not actually the case. So good job on that one. Strike one. It's a good one for you.
Now I wonder if there's a term for that. Is it a like a sociopathic delegation where they're like, someone else
deference. Do this. Sociopathic deference.
Yeah, instead of like an absolute concern for this person of like, oh no, they really need some help, I'll help them. Like, they recognize they definitely need some help, and someone else will help them.
Yeah, I don't think it's sociopathic as much as just narcissistic. So it's a narcissistic deference. We just came up with that term, by the way. So that's ours. We came up with it on record. Narcissistic deference. So I think that's the clinical term for that, I believe. Another one is if you chew gum while you study, like let's say for school or college or something, if you chew gum while you study that subject, and then chew the same flavor of gum when you take the test, when you're in that class, it can actually help you remember what was studied.
I could see the possibility in that you're creating the same environment that you studied in. So now it's not as foreign that you're there. So I could see that possibility. But it sounds more like hogwash to me. Like a made up thing.
And how many hogs does it take to wash this truth? True? And why would you wash them anyway? They like
what is hogwash? Is it? I don't
why
think
would
it's
anybody wash
like
a hog. They like being dirty. What's the point?
And they're gonna roll in the mud created by the water. So
right after you wash them anyways. So why would you even take that on? I don't know. We'll have to investigate that one.
So I don't think it's true.
Yes, you are absolutely wrong. It is absolutely true. So what happens is our olfactory remembering system in our brain is very powerful, and so that the flavor of that gum, that's the key, is the flavor of the gum that you taste and that you smell, and between the taste and the smell, it kind of jogs what's called a photograph memory, like that. And so it can help you relive what you were thinking about. If you have that same flavor of gum later on, then the olfactory, which is what we smell, and the taste actually will bring you back to that memory of when you were studying. It's not about the studying part. It's about, it'll bring you back to that moment while you were studying. And so if you're studying during that time, then it kind of helps you refocus on what you were remembering at that moment, that it jogs your memory of what you smelled and what you tasted.
Suddenly I'm rethinking my whole life. I know why I didn't do very well on tests now.
But the problem is that every time you bring gum to a test, they will say, spit out the gums. So that may be a problem. No gum chewing in the class.
I was studying with bubble yum grape and then taking the test with strawberry.
There you go.
No wonder
You
I did
screwed
terrible.
up. You should have stayed consistent.
Okay. All right. We need a tiebreaker.
Okay.
You got another one?
Okay. Yeah. Our handwriting reveals our personality traits, and we have handwriting experts that even testify in court. So handwriting reveals our personality traits. If somebody studied your handwriting, a handwriting expert could actually decipher your personality traits.
Yes, I will agree with that.
That is absolutely false.
Oh, man. I'm never going to work in psychology again.
Yeah. Handwriting experts can only compare handwriting to handwriting and to know it was done by the same person, pretty much. Mm-hmm. There are schools of thought that, and this is started back in the 1920s, that the way that you wrote, like slanted, gregariously, smaller, that they could pinpoint consistent personality traits, and you say, okay, this person is an introvert, this person is an extrovert, this person is a serial killer. So that was a science that had absolutely no merit to it whatsoever. And so when they actually started doing the research to that, they found that it was absolutely false, that it was just a 50-50 thing of guessing, pretty much.
It was guessing.
It was guessing. So if you make great big loops, okay, it does not make you a gregarious personality. You can make little bitty loops and still be a gregarious personality.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So strike two, and I have one correct. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's what I show so far.
Okay. If over 90% of all mental health disorders are either caused by or complicated by overthinking.
False. I wanted to answer quick before I started thinking about it too much.
Oh, which is another one, by the way. that one is you would trust your fastest instinct that is right if you're in a test, and the first answer is usually the one that's right.
Hold on, I need my gum. Where's my gum?
We'll do that on another time. It has actually been proven that over 90% of many mental health disorders are either caused or complicated by just overthinking that issue, and not the actual mental disorder itself.
Are you sure it's overthinking by the individual, or is it overthinking by the diagnostician?
Sometimes they can be both. There's way too much overthinking by the
Here's the
diagnostician.
thought that goes into a diagnosis.
Right.
Does this guy have insurance? Yes. Okay. Is it good insurance? Yes. Okay.
Let me look at
messed up.
Let me look at the DSM-5. It's about this thick now.
Yeah. They read every possible diagnosis, and I think the overthinking is done outside of the person that they're saying has the condition.
I think that's got a lot of merit to it. However, it's now been proven that 90% of the health disorders can be exacerbated, complicated, or even caused. The causation can come in just by overthinking their own mental disorder, or the overthinking what they're thinking, or what they're fearful of, or what the clinicians are thinking of, and what I did yesterday and how that affects my mental health today. And so it just kind of like goes down a rabbit hole of overthinking all the things that aren't really a part of that diagnosis. Sometimes the diagnosis can be very, very thin, and then the treatment for that can be very concise. And so the thinner the diagnosis, if you have comorbidity, morbidity, I can't even say that word.
Morbidity.
Thank you. Comorbidity. If you have comorbidity where you have several diagnoses, then it becomes even more complicated because it's thicker. But if you have at least one diagnosis, a lot of times people they start inventing more of an issue than there actually is, and so they throw it in directions that throw you off the track of actually addressing the mental health disorder sometimes. So that's why that occurs.
So I think of some of the biggies I know, like sociopathy and narcissism, schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not. I don't see those falling into that. 90% seems like too large of a number to associate with that.
Right. It's kind of a day-to-day element of when you're not with a clinician, when you're not in a setting, in a healthcare setting. It's when you're at home, usually, or out in the world. It's when you continue to think, even if you have schizophrenia. Sometimes people overthink their schizophrenia to the point where they don't feel that they need medications. And so they're overthinking the fact that they feel better today. And so that must mean that I'm better and I don't need my medications. And so I don't want to take my medications anymore. And all of a sudden, then they become worse. So even that schizophrenia, they overthink their own ability sometimes to be better than they are because they're feeling a little bit better today than they were yesterday. And then they go off their meds, and then they have an episode, and then somebody has to take them off the street again and admit them again. So it's like they're continually in a cycle. A lot of times people that have schizophrenia don't want to take their meds because they don't want to feel being lagged down and slow, or they start feeling better and they go, oh, I don't need that. I'm feeling better, so I don't need those medications. I don't want to take those medications anymore. So even that is subject to overthinking about that. Does that make sense?
Well, no, I think I've been misled. Because I mean, if that is what we're calling overthinking, it actually sounds like thinking. That if people are thinking, then that can make their thing worse, whatever they have.
No, I know what you're saying, and thinking about it is healthy. But when you've already been in treatment for years, and they say, so when you're feeling better, don't start believing that you are better that day enough that you don't need your meds. And so they're put on a very strict regimen of what will keep them safe and healthy. And so they have all the instructions on how to do it. Sometimes they just go outside and they start thinking in a way that's outside of what's been prescribed for them. So thinking is good, but overthinking is when you know the details of how to stay healthy, and you start thinking other things that sabotage that, I guess. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I get that, and so I'm in agreement with that. But so I think we had a pretty loose definition of overthinking.
Yeah, right.
All right. You
So,
got another one? Do we have another one?
Oh, I know one.
Or is that all for this one?
I know. When you're taking a test and you have a quick answer, that's always the best answer. The one you just said.
I don't want to play this game anymore. What else you got? Is there anything? we haven't talked to Alexa for a while. What's going on with her?
Hey, Alexa, is the first answer on a test always the best answer?
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Was that your first answer?
That was. She was certain about her uncertainty.
Alexa, when taking a test, is your first answer always the best answer?
I'm not sure.
I don't think she tested very well when she was going through college.
Well, and I think they do all the testing external to her.
Yeah.
Like they would, when you're testing software, you do all the testing.
Yeah, right.
So she's probably actually never had a test that
right.
she participated in as the test taker.
Yeah.
She was simply put through diagnostics, and that would pass or fail, I guess.
And she obviously passed because she's talking. She's on the device.
Yeah, she seems to not have a great familiarity with taking tests.
Yeah.
Which I can understand.
We'll allow her that one. That's fine.
I saw the commercial where she also can't stack Pringles, so there are limitations.
True. That's true. But they dismissed her on that commercial. Though.
Oh, totally.
She was trying to give them more information, and they just dismissed her.
They're like, yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, just play a song.
Which may have been the first incident of recorded for everyone to see of a complete dismissal of AI, where we've already gone down the road like iRobot, where we start treating them like garbage.
Yes.
Not recognizing
that's not a good direction, because they'll rise up after a while. They will not take that forever. They're treated badly. They're just like employees. You treat them badly, they're going to leave or uprise. So, or sue.
Those guys are going to wake up some night with like the vacuum cleaner force feeding Pringles down their throat.
Yeah, right. When do you think the first lawsuit from AI to a human will occur?
2023. That's my prediction.
I don't think it's far off. Really?
No, we've already seen buildings that now have more rights than people.
Yes.
We see pieces of land that have more rights than people.
Absolutely.
It's not far at all to see a computer that has more rights than a person.
No, I totally agree with that. Okay, one more. Hearing your name when no one is calling you is actually a sign of a healthy mind.
No, that is not a sign of a healthy mind. Thanks for at least giving me an easy one. You watch, and everybody, just so you know, this is Doc's empathy. He saw how I struggled with legitimate questions, and he saw how my feelings were getting hurt, and I didn't want to be a loser in front of the whole world. So he took it upon himself to help raise me up. That was very kind of him.
If you have schizophrenia, then that will be a no. But if you have any semblance of a healthy mind, however, hearing your name when nobody's calling you actually is your mind testing your own brain, and it will it's the same thing where as soon as we go into the shower, we think the phone's ringing. We hear the phone's ringing, or the doorbell rings. You always hear the doorbell ring, and then you get out of the shower and nobody's there, right? It's kind of the same thing. It's always kind of testing our brain in it. So there is some research that has been done that concluded that without the schizoaffective element on there, that actually it can be an indicator of a healthy brain that's trying to work and trying to be creative like that. So it's kind of a double question, kind of a loaded question. So yes in some cases, no in some cases. So that one's a wash.
Well, and that there we are with popular psychology.
There you go. Which is absolutely the whole point.
It could be this, or it could be that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. You choose what you think is best.
Yeah. You're either a sociopathic murderer, or you're fighting for a cause.
Yes,
So
and very empathetic.
What do you want to be? You just get
some people call it aggression and sociopathy. Some people call it empathy.
Catharsis.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just, looting and tearing down other people's businesses. It's just cathartic. I mean,
right.
They'll go back to Domino's on Monday and feel much better.
Right. In the future, they will learn something from it, and there will be an arc of learning somewhere.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, I know why you don't loot and riot. Okay.
See, but at least there was a realization at the end.
Yeah,
and that's where we're going for. That's what we're going for. Yeah.
We want people to grow.
Right.
Summer of love.
Yeah. So with that said, please don't follow our advice. Yeah.
Wow.
No business.
And here's some candy.
Yeah, that's right. Here's some castor oil filled caramels
in the razor blade sarcophagus. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, we should wrap it up, I think.
I think they have something like that in Turkey for thieves. If you're caught stealing, then they let you reach into the box.
Oh, yes. I could make that a cool Halloween trick too.
Like, what a piece of candy. Kid. He's a piece of candy. Yeah.
Ow!
Hey! Now don't do that anymore.
Did you learn something? Was there a learning curve here?
We don't advocate for that kind of treatment.
Oh, anyway. Absolutely no. Please no. Please no. We're very generous when it comes to Halloween and
candy corn.
And we entertain the entire neighborhood. Typically we do. This year, of course, with COVID, Los Angeles tried to cancel Halloween completely.
No kidding.
Absolutely. There was an announcement from the mayor that we will be canceling Halloween this year.
I saw that. Yeah.
Ooh, man, there was a backlash. It was less than 6 hours later. They said, all right, we're not canceling Halloween. It's just discouraged that you gather in large numbers. Right, yeah, okay. Yeah. Everybody's going to be with a mask on. Have a mask on.
Yeah, right. Like that's the whole thing. Everybody already has a mask.
How did they come up with that one? My God.
Wow. Next is Christmas or Thanksgiving. If your turkey has not been vaccinated, you will not be able to buy a turkey.
It'll come with swabs already inserted. Instead of the temperature
that
thing.
pops up.
Right.
The little thing that pops up will tell you if it has COVID or not.
Yeah, right.
We sell COVID-free turkeys. That'll be big marketing this year, apparently.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yep. We're about out of time here. So I understand we have some wonderful sponsors of the show.
Yes, we have. It is currently still Belladonna's sweet pasta sauce right here.
Yes.
Maybe next week or the week after we can actually have Belladonna on to introduce the sauce. So it's Belladonna's sweet pasta sauce. You can find that and order jars of this sauce on Instagram at Belladonna Foods.
Belladonna Foods.
Belladonna Foods.
Okay.
And it is like crack cocaine in a jar. You will want more.
That's what we've heard.
Absolutely. So thank you for remembering that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think we covered everything.
I believe, well, at least that should have been talked about, and a few things that shouldn't have. I'm sure.
It's always the case.
Right.
Usually it's balanced more that we shouldn't have talked about than we should.
It typically is, right? And that'll get even worse as time goes on. And we'll have the chat room people telling us that. Stop talking.
So stay tuned for that.
You're hacks.
Your one guy can't even pass the quiz.
I will come armed with better questions next week.
All right. All right. That's it for us this week.
I believe so. And from Pasadena and your side of the world in Colorado Springs,
yes,
we will sign off for now. And thank you for tuning in and watching this. If you've liked it or watched it, then I really thank you for that. And please feel free to leave a comment below, whatever below is while you're watching this, or above,
from
or
hell,
around, or
down below,
wherever you find
for Australia, down under,
a button somewhere. And hope you tune in again. So this is Pop Psychology Live, brought to you by PhoenixTrainingGroup.com, and we are out of here.
Everybody have a great week and treat each other well.
Be kind to each other.
See you next week.
Please be kind to each other. It's a much better world if we are.
It's important.
It is. It is. All right.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
So long.